Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic.
What if Naruto was Son Goku's firstborn? The Saiyan Harem begins Part 1. It was a proud and glorious evening for the people of Earth. A tournament that was known worldwide and popular amongst all cultures was about to begin. It was the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai martial arts tournament, the greatest tournament of them all. A place where everyone and anyone could come to show off their strength and become the next world champion. No one was more excited for this opportunity than Son Goku, a young strapping man of 18 years old, ready to make his third attempt at the tournament, and this time, the young fighter knew he was going to win. He had to fight a strange girl tomorrow who kept glaring at him for some reason, but then he would get to test his skill against Ma Jr., or as he was better known, Piccolo Jr., son of the great demon King Piccolo. His large black spikes blew blissfully with the wind as the material artist's black eyes were stuck staring up at the now night sky with a look of peace. He was sharing a room with his best friend and fellow student of Master Roshi. Krillin, the bald monk, slept peacefully with a happy smile and a small bit of drool escaping his parted lips. Snoring softly as he wrapped himself like a mummy in his blankets, cocooned in what could be described as a fluffy warm silk hug. Goku laughed softly at his friend before returning his attention to the night sky, sighing as he rested his chin on his palm. However, his keen eyes caught red, a familiar red that young martial artists hadn't seen in a very long time. Goku tilted his head, a confused frown on his lips as he silently thought to himself, "I think I know her." Without even thinking, Goku leapt out the window, landing gracefully as he gave chase after the mysterious stranger. The black spiky-haired teen was quick as he tracked down a young woman who was wandering around the closed arena, standing amongst the rows of empty seats as she admired the grand structure, attempting to imagine tomorrow's match with closed eyes. Goku was slow as he approached the red-headed young woman, softly calling out with a sheepish smile, "Excuse me, miss, sorry to bother you, but I have a feeling we've met somewhere before." "Goku, is that you?" the mysterious woman asked as she slowly turned around, brushing aside a stray crimson lock. "Suno," Goku exclaimed in shock, struggling to believe this was the same girl he met in Jingle Village all those years ago. Goku got an excited look as he started to look around. "Hey Suno, if you're here, does that mean Ader is here as well?" "Sorry Goku, it's just me. Ader would have loved to come but he had to stay home," Suno explained as she and Goku left the arena to walk around the nearby city. The crimson-haired girl had a burst of courage as she said to the boy she had developed feelings for since she was just a child, "Actually Goku, I'm really happy I found you. I heard about the tournament and I just knew you would be here." "You came looking for me Suno?" Goku asked with a head tilt and a smile that had the poor girl's face glowing a slight red. Now just noticing how much more handsome the affliction of her desire has grown. "I did. I just didn't think it would be so hard to say," Suno muttered in slight embarrassment, struggling to confess her feeling. "Come with me," Goku said suddenly as he took Suno's hand, leading her away from the city and its many people. Goku, where are we going?" "What about the tournament? My favorite place in the entire world. I think you'll really like it. It helps me when I need to think and we'll make it back in time," Goku assured Suno with an easygoing smile before bringing a cupped hand to his mouth, calling out for his trusty yellow cloud, Nimbus. Swoosh! The giant yellow cloud swept down from the sky, stopping and hovering just before the two, awaiting for them to jump on and lead the magical cloud where it needed to go. Goku was the first one to leap onto his magical yellow cloud, his pure heart stopping him from falling through. The young martial artist held his hand out for Suno to take. Suno, while nervous, didn't hesitate to take Goku's hand, letting out a little yelp when the mighty warrior easily pulled the young woman onto Nimbus, laughing and wrapping her arms around Goku's chest as she got comfortable. gasping as the cloud slowly brought them into the air before zooming off in Goku's desired direction. Suno's beautiful hair danced with the wind, the white puffy clouds within reach, and of course, she couldn't resist the chance to reach out and touch the ball of moisture. Goku, seeing this, smiled, happy to see his old friend enjoying herself. It didn't take long before Goku saw the familiar sight of his home and, more importantly, the grave of his beloved grandfather, Gohan. The young martial artist gave a melancholy-type smile as he clasped his hands together and bowed. Suno followed her friend's lead by holding her hands together and giving a bow of respect to Goku's grandfather. Goku sighed before humming in thought to himself. He gestured for Suno to follow as he led the crimson-haired team to a beautiful clearing where they made a fire to stay warm, using nearby broken branches and a simple ki blast. Suno, after enjoying the heat from the flames, took the moment to say, "It's been so long since we've seen each other, but knowing you, Goku, you've probably been busy on all sorts of adventures." Goku nodded and with a laugh, scratching at his black spiky locks as he said, "Hee hee, that's true. The last couple years have been particularly crazy. I spent a ton of time trainin' with Cammy." Cammy? Suno questioned with a tilt of her head, trying to picture what this Cammy looked like. He's got this giant lookout in the sky, and because of him, I'm way stronger than I was before. I'm sure now, I could take out Demon King Piccolo, no problem." Goku replied, partially saying that last bit to himself. Suno looked at her friend in amazement, still struggling to believe this was AY same small boy with the monkey tail. The crimson-haired girl complimented the martial artist with dazzled eyes, "You really have grown." "Hee hee, thanks. What about you, Suno? What have you been doing?" "Well, nothing quite as exciting as you, but with the help of Ader and the disappearance of the Red Ribbon Army, Jingle Village has never been better. It's so much bigger now," Suno told Goku, becoming more excited near the end as the growth of her home and the cooperation of its people always brought a warm feeling to her heart. Goku, happy to see Suno's passion, grinned as he said, "I'm so glad. I'll have to come visit everyone sometime." "I would love that," Suno responded with a smile, before turning to look back at the fire, the poor girl's face going slightly red as called out to the young martial artist by her side, "Goku." "Yeah, Suno," Goku called out to the crimson-haired teen, tilting his head as wondered why Suno's face was so red. "Was the fire too hot? There's an important reason why I came to see you tonight," Suno started to say, looking beautiful with the roaring fire and night sky dazzling bright. Having Goku's full attention as she continued, "Ever since I found and saved you from the cold all those years ago, I felt a way that I couldn't quite describe, or I guess since I was so young, I didn't really know what it was, but I do now." "Suno," Goku whispered out her name as drew closer, brows tipping in confusion as he started to feel strange. His face felt like it was on fire and his heart was beating like a drum. He couldn't quite explain why Suno was making him feel so different, so when the gorgeous crimson-haired girl pressed her lips against his own, he let his instincts take over. Following his instincts, he pressed back, reaching out to touch and hold Suno before the need for air became too great and the two temporarily separated. Suno stroked Goku's cheek tenderly, looking at him with nothing but passion and desire. "I've loved you since I was a little girl, and now that we're together again, even if it's just for tonight, I wanted to show you how I feel. Let me show you how much you really mean to me." On that night, a love was shared, but alas, it would only be for this night, but unknown to the two, their act of passion would have lasting consequences. The very next day, after saying goodbye to Suno and dropping the crimson-haired woman back at her home in Jingle Village, Son Goku would speedily return back to the World Martial Arts Tournament with no time to waste. Arriving by the skin of his teeth and nearly being disqualified for his tardiness. His opponent, the mysterious woman who had been glaring at him the day before, didn't appreciate his disrespect and made it known as soon as their fight was cleared to start. The black-haired woman, who seemed to be holding a massive grudge against Goku, fought relentlessly, using all of her strength but against the mighty warrior that was Son Goku. She was no match. Goku effortlessly knocked his fellow martial artist out the ring, and when the humble fighter went to congratulate his fellow warrior, it was revealed that this mysterious woman was intact, someone he knew, a girl he met years ago, Chi-Chi, the princess and daughter of the Demon Ox King. With that astonishing reveal quickly came the one Goku made in his youth, a promise he didn't quite understand but was still willing to honor, which was to marry Chi-Chi when they found each other again. A celebration for the now engaged couple would have to wait, as the battle between Goku and Piccolo Jr. was about to take place, and what an epic battle it was. The fate of planet Earth decided between these two clashing titans. The arena had crumbled to dust from their clash of powers. Even Piccolo himself had grown to the size of giant in his effort to kill his greatest foe, but alas, Son Goku showed his strength and determination could not be beat. The mighty martial artist had won, and Earth had once again been saved. Now Goku was free to rest with his new wife and start a new chapter on his exciting journey, but unfortunately, this story isn't about Son Goku but instead his son, a son he himself doesn't even know about. The snow crunched underneath sturdy boots, a sigh escaping slightly parted lips as a glove-covered hand reached up to push back a very familiar strand of crimson-colored hair. A bright yellow beanie rested atop of a now older Suno, who was waving in greeting to her fellow villagers, a giant man holding large lumbers of wood by her side. But this man, who looked very similar to the famous Frankenstein's monster, was no man at all but in fact the android Ader, a very close friend to both Suno and Goku. The mother of one took a moment to push her snow shovel down, wiping her brow from the hard work of shoveling a pathway. The young woman turned to look at the happy android, asking, "Ader, you haven't seen Naruto, have you?" Ader stopped to think, shifting the wood in his arms as he said, "I think he went hunting again." Suno couldn't help but shake her head with a laugh and a fond smile as she stared up into the sky, simply saying, "That boy is just like his father." With Naruto, miles upon miles away from the snowy area of Jingle Village, where the greenery dominated the vast land, a young boy was crouched on a tree with his golden monkey tail lazily swinging in the wind. His blue eyes were narrowed as he prepared to pounce on his unsuspecting prey. A hand reached up to scratch at his blonde spikes of hair. It seemed to be a strange mixture of his father's hair and his uncle Minato, who died years before Naruto was born. The boy had dismissed his winter clothing, having no need for it, especially with his prey so close. The area shook from some massive creatures, titanic steps. Many of the smaller animals fled or found somewhere small and confined to hide. But what did the son of Goku do? Well, he charged headfirst towards the danger, of course. Naruto had a massive grin as he drew closer to the surprised dinosaur, its massive maw, filled with razor-sharp teeth, opening wide as it attempted to eat the monkey-tailed boy in one bite. But Naruto showed bizarre and unnatural agility and speed for a child his age. Naruto dodged its mighty jaws, the gigantic beast snapping at air, and left itself valuable for the young warrior to jump up high and come down hard on the dinosaur's neck, killing it instantly. The titanic reptile crumbled to the grassy ground below. Naruto dusted his hands with a grin before reaching out and easily hefting the monstrous-sized creature over his head with one hand. To defy physics even more, Naruto steadily started to float and then even soar through the sky, mumbling to himself, "I hope Mama and the villagers are happy with my catch. Just the thought of all this meat cooked up has got me hungry." With the thought of his future meal in mind, Naruto tripled his speed, being surrounded by a silver-white aura as he flew past a couple clouds. Anyone who saw the monkey-tailed boy's speeding form simply assumed he was a plane or a jet and went on with their day, but those on the colder side of the continent knew better. Many of those in Jingle Village all grouped together to welcome Naruto home and admire his greatest catch of the day. Naruto's whiskered cheeks, now rosy and pink from the cold, pulled back into a massive smile at the sight of Suno approaching with Ader. The youth shrugged the dinosaur's carcass off his shoulder, making the surrounding villagers jump from the impact, as he rushed towards his mother, leaping into her arms as he gave her a massive hug, his tail briefly wrapping around her waist before the monkey boy jumped down, taking Suno's hand as he guided her towards his catch. "I got another big one for us." Suno rested a gloved hand on Naruto's head, rustling his blonde spiky locks as she complimented her son with a grin. "Good job, kiddo, this will keep everyone fed for months." Hee hee. Naruto looked proud of himself as he scratched at his whiskered cheek, following Ader and telling the massive android of his adventure as the two started to drag the dinosaur to the butcher's. Suno could only watch with another look of fondness, sighing as she once again thought to herself, so much like his father. It was a brand new day. The sun was out, the skies were clear and the people of Jingle Village were in bright spirits. Well, most of the inhabitants. Young Naruto sat high on a mountain top, his arms crossed and his eyes shut. He seemed to be concentrating, searching for something, and what that something was, Naruto had no clue. No, the 5-year-old was left stumped as he opened his eyes to stare into the sky. He knows he felt something, a power, possibly the strongest to come to this planet so far. It paled in comparison to his own strength, but it also made Naruto extremely curious. That was why the monkey-tailed boy sat on the mountaintop. He was trying to learn how to sense the ki he felt, to pinpoint its exact location so he could go investigate the disturbance. Naruto was so focused on his goal that he didn't even wish his mother a good morning or stay for breakfast. His outrageous hunger was put aside for his eagerness to fight. That's when Naruto felt it, a massive spike in ki, no, multiple spikes. Without haste, Naruto shot from his spot like a rocket, breaking the sound barrier in seconds as he concentrated on the power, but even with Naruto's amazing speed, it seemed he was too late. A battle definitely took place from the massive craters and scorch marks that scarred the earth, but the real evidence was a man with long spiky hair and a massive hole in his chest. Naruto slowly approached the long-haired man, stopping and gasping once he noticed the brown monkey tail wrapped around his waist. Walking closer, Naruto crouched in front of the presumed dead stranger, reaching out with his hand, stopping when he could faintly feel his ki. "He's alive. Help me." Naruto nearly jumped back when he heard the stranger's weak but dying voice, moving so he was next to the stranger's face. His only open eye glanced at Naruto, then down to his own golden monkey tail, his nun-swollen eye widening as he whispered out, "Why, you're a Saiyan." "A Saiyan? Is that some kind of food?" Naruto questioned with a tilt of his head, frowning when he noticed the mysterious stranger's eye steadily start to close and his breathing grow more shallow. Without even thinking or needing to be asked, Naruto carefully picked up the dying man and concentrated his ki into the man's larger body while steadily floating the two into the air. Naruto bit his lip as he looked around frantically, unsure of what to do. That's when Naruto felt it. Another short but sudden spike in ki. Having no other options, Naruto rushed towards the direction where he felt the burst of power, coming across a land that was filled with nothing but tall mighty trees, and in the center a large well-crafted home that almost looked fit enough for royalty. Naruto landed as gently as he could, placing the bleeding stranger on the ground before turning and calling out towards the house, "Hello? Is anyone there? I need some help." What Naruto wasn't expecting was for an older girl with shoulder-length blonde hair held up in a high ponytail. She had the most mesmerizing pair of brown eyes Naruto had ever seen. She glanced at Naruto, then the stranger that was passed out and near dead on the ground, turning on her heels as she rushed back inside, calling out, "Grandpa." "What is it, Tsunade?" A kind and aged voice called out, following the girl outside and gasping in slight surprise at the sight. "Oh dear." A man with long gray hair, Tanned skin and dark eyes quickly approached Naruto and the dying Saiyan. Taking a glance at the monkey-tailed man before ordering the boy, "Bring him inside. It might not be too late to save his life." Naruto followed the new stranger into his home, briefly glancing at the girl, Tsunade, before following the girl's grandpa into a room filled with medical supplies. "Place him on the table for me, son." Naruto followed his instructions, placing the near-dead Saiyan on the table and then stepping back, crossing his arms as he watched Tsunade move around the room quickly, gathering everything her grandfather needed without him even asking her. "Do you need me to help, Mr. Hashirama?" "And there's no need. I'll take care of everything here," Hashirama assured Naruto kindly before turning to his granddaughter, suggesting, "Tsunade, why don't you take the young man outside? This may take a while." Tsunade nodded, quietly saying, "Follow me." As she led the golden monkey-tailed boy out of her massive home, and Naruto was more than happy to follow the older girl, briefly stopping to glance over his shoulder before following her towards her favorite spot where she liked to sit and think. A large tree filled with giant juicy red apples. Tsunade found a comfortable place to sit on a soft patch of grass while Naruto leapt into the tree, getting his hands on as many apples as possible, nearly startling Tsunade as he hung upside down by his tail, already munching on the red delicious fruit while offering the other one in his hand to the older girl. Tsunade raised one of her eyebrows, almost baffled at the amount of nerve the monkey boy had to start eating their apples while offering her one like it was his to give away, but instead of getting mad or offended, Tsunade accepted the apple, nodding her head in thanks as she took a bite out of the fruit. "Do you think that man is gonna be okay?" Naruto questioned as he looked back towards the house, putting aside a half-eaten apple. Tsunade shrugged, saying passively, "I don't know. Most normal people don't survive that long with a massive hole in their chest." Naruto, not sure what to make of that answer, let out a "hum" as he went back to munching on his apple. Tsunade, noticing how downtrodden Naruto seemed at her answer, hoped to console him by saying, "But Gramps is the strongest healer and fighter in the world. Hey, he's even better than the great mutant Roshi." Naruto threw aside his apple core, moving closer to the older girl as he said with a tile of his head, "Who's that? Is he strong?" Tsunade rolled her brown eyes at what she thought should be common knowledge. She sighed as she explained to Naruto who exactly Roshi is, only one of the best martial artists of all time, second to my grandpa of course. From what I heard they used to be rivals. Rivals, huh? Is this Roshi guy alive? Naruto questioned Tsunade, eager to know if such a strong martial artist was close or possibly nearby. "I think so. My grandpa sends him letters sometimes," Tsunade answered with a shrug. Tsunade also noticed Naruto seemed content just sitting there, said to the monkey-tailed boy, "You might as well head home and come back tomorrow. I don't think you'll be seeing much change. I hope he gets better quickly," Naruto said out loud but mostly to himself. He turned and started to run in the direction the blonde ponytailed girl assumed was his home. The young martial artist glanced over his shoulder, waving goodbye as he shouted, "It was nice meeting you, Tsunade." The granddaughter of Hashirama couldn't help but shake her head with a faint smile, muttering to herself, "Weird kid." The sky was dark and the winds were cold. Naruto could see the faint outline of a crescent moon as he glanced outside his window. The young lad couldn't help but sigh as he looked away, turning his attention to his approaching mother whose arms were full with a tray of food, big enough to feed 5 grown men. "Here you go, sweetheart," Suno said happily as she placed a small feast in front of the Saiyan child, moving to take her own place at the table. "Thanks mama," Naruto said half-heartedly as he didn't attack his plate right away, just staring at the food with a distracted gaze. "Everything all right, honey? You're not even touching your food?" Suno questioned in concern, knowing the signs straight away when her child was upset. I guess I'm not that hungry. Naruto answered with a shrug, resting his arms on the table as he was stuck thinking about the man he found yesterday, as well as who this Master Roshi was. Not hungry? Suno questioned with a look of concern, rushing to her son's side to feel his forehead, asking him, "Are you feeling okay? Do you have a fever?" Naruto gently removed his mother's hand with a shake of his head and a smile as he clarified, "It's nothing like that, Mama. It's just, do you know anyone by the name Mutant Roshi?" Naruto found himself feeling quite relieved and overjoyed at his mother's nod and smile as she said, "I do. He's your father's teacher. He trained my dad." The golden monkey-tailed boy questioned with wide eyes, resting his hands on the table as he leaned forward in excitement. Suno nodded, resting a hand on her chin as she started to remember what she could about the old martial arts master. "From what I heard, he's quite the skilled martial artist but also a deadly pervert." "I see," Naruto said, not exactly knowing what a pervert was but still wanting to find Master Roshi. Suno sighed as she saw the excited smile spreading across her son's face. "I know that look. You're planning to go look for him, aren't you?" "Hee hee, you know me too well," Naruto replied to his mother with a cheeky smile, scratching at his spiky blonde locks. "If I remember correctly from what your father told me a long time ago, I think he lives near the Southeast Islands, close to Lako village," Suno told her son, hoping to help him any way she could in his search for his father's master. There was also a selfish desire to send Naruto looking for Goku's teacher. She hoped the old master would have a way of introducing a son to his father. "Lako village, huh? I guess I'll start searching there," Naruto proclaimed with an eager grin, his appetite reappearing with a vengeance as he advanced towards his mountain of food. "Just be careful, honey," Suno requested as she prepared to eat her own modest-sized meal. Naruto, while holding a large drumstick that seemed almost as large as his arm, waved off his mother with an easygoing grin, saying, "There's no need to worry, Mama, I'm the strongest after all." Suno couldn't help but shake her head, sighing as she said, "I know you are, but I still can't help but worry about you, my little man." Naruto, not wanting his mother to worry, replied in a more serious way, "I'll be safe, I promise." The next day, Naruto was soaring through the sky at speeds one would consider impossible. That familiar silver-white aura shrouded his entire small form as he dashed through clouds, past many flying creatures, big and small. Naruto was in a hurry to return back to Tsunade and Hashirama's home, remembering what Tsunade said yesterday about her grandfather sending letters to the old turtle hermit. The monkey-tailed boy gently touched down on the grassy ground below and started looking around for the grandfather and granddaughter duo, frowning in confusion when he couldn't sense their key anywhere. Deciding they wouldn't mind if he went inside to check on the man he found yesterday, Naruto walked into the Senju household, using his senses to find the room housing the long spiky-haired stranger. He was still but breathing with blood-stained bandages wrapped around his chest. Whatever Hashirama did, it worked. "I'm glad to see you're okay," Naruto said to the unconscious Saiyan, his golden monkey tail softly swishing left then right. Kakarot, Naruto tilted his head in confusion, listening as the mysterious stranger mumbled a name in his sleep. "What are you doing here?" Tsunade asked with raised brow and her hands on her hips, resisting the urge to grab the monkey-tailed boy by the scruff of his shirt and throw him outside. "Seeing if he's still alive," was Naruto's simple response as he turned to face the slightly elated blonde. Tsunade rolled her eyes, removing her hands from her hips as she walked over to the unconscious Saiyan. "You know, it's rude to enter someone's home when they're not there, right? Is it?" Naruto asked, his grin making it hard for Tsunade to tell if he was joking or not. "You're hopeless," Tsunade replied with a shake of her head, but if you looked close enough, you could see she was hiding a faint smile. "I'm glad he's going to be okay," Naruto said earnestly as he stared at the sleeping Saiyan's prone form. Tsunade curled a brow, glancing at the bandaged alien and then back at Naruto, asking, "How can you tell? He still might not make it through tonight. I just have a feelin', ya know," was Naruto's honest but simple reply. His beaming smile and confidence in himself almost had Tsunade joining her fellow blonde in his belief. "So you just came to check up on him?" questioned Tsunade as she led Naruto out of the room. Naruto's smile turned more sheepish as he scratched at his spiky locks. "Well, I also wanted to see your grandpa." "Is he here?" "Yeah. The old timer is just playing in his garden." "Follow me," Tsunade ordered as she brought Naruto to where her grandfather was sitting peacefully, or rather, meditating under a large mighty oak tree with blooming flowers surrounding his peaceful form. "It's nice to see you again, my monkey-tailed friend." "Yo, how's it goin', old timer?" Naruto asked with a wave, his ear twitching as he heard Tsunade lightly snicker into her hand. Hashirama didn't take any offense to Naruto's greeting, responding with one of his own as he said, "I didn't think we'd be seeing you so soon." "Well, I wish I could say this was just a friendly visit," Naruto replied honestly as he sheepishly rubbed his neck. I was hoping you could tell me where Master Roshi is," the golden monkey-tailed boy requested, surprising Tsunade as much as it did Hashirama. The old man pondered as he rubbed his chin, hiding his smile as he asked, "Why are you looking for my old rival?" "If you don't mind me asking." "I don't really know him, but recently I found out he trained my dad," Naruto said, looking away from Hashirama and Tsunade so he could stare up at the sky, sighing as he tried to picture what his father looked like. He sounded slightly sad as he continued to say, "I don't really know what to expect, but I want to meet the man who trained my father. It won't be much, but I think if I train with Master Roshi, it might just bring me closer to my dad." Tsunade stared at Naruto with a surprised gaze, not expecting the usual bright-eyed happy-go-lucky boy to be so downtrodden, but in a way Tsunade could empathize given her own situation with her parents. "I see," Hashirama quietly responded, nodding his head as he found Naruto's desire to find his old friend more than reasonable. "If you're so persistent, then perhaps you wouldn't mind delivering something to my old friend, would you?" "Not at all, old timer," Naruto responded with a salute and a smile. "Ha ha 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 ha, cheeky brat," Hashirama laughed, finding himself taking quite a liking to the monkey-tailed boy. "I know Master Roshi lives near Lako village, but I'm not exactly sure where he is," Naruto told the old martial artist and healer, following Hashirama and Tsunade into their home. "That's okay, my boy, he is quite difficult to find. He lives in a small house on an island in the middle of the ocean. You'll know it once you spot it," Hashirama said as he handed Naruto a couple of letters and a thin sealed package. "Small house on an island, got it," Naruto assured Hashirama after repeating what he was meant to look for to himself a couple of times. "Just tell Roshi I sent you," Hashirama told the golden monkey-tailed boy, knowing it will give the youth a better chance of getting trained by his old rival. "Thank you, Mr. Hashirama," Naruto thanked earnestly as he bowed his head, an action Hashirama reciprocated. "No problem, son. I better get going. I'll be back later," Naruto promised, waving goodbye to the high pigtailed girl in particular, by Tsunade. Tsunade waved back, watching Naruto float into the sky, then zipping across the skyline like a shooting star. Naruto wasted no time in finding Lako village, hovering above the small island, smiling at the sight of the villagers going about their day. The monkey-tailed boy turned his attention to the great blue surrounding the small tropical piece of land. He crossed his arms, closing his eyes as he spread out his ki, in a sense, using his energy to search for Master Roshi, similar to echolocation. When Naruto's ki interacted with Roshi's, it lit off a flare inside the monkey-tailed boy's mind and revealed the location of the old turtle hermit's home. Naruto wasted no time flying across the ocean, the waves parting from his velocity. Following the ki he could now sense, Naruto eventually found himself upon an even small island, home to a decent-sized house and a couple of palm trees. Kame house, this is definitely the place, Naruto thought as he gently touched down on the soft sand bellow. Enjoying the serenity of the island for a couple of moments, then walking up to the screen door, knocking 3 times before calling out, "Excuse me, I'm looking for a Master Roshi." "Hello. Hold your horses, I'm comin'," an aged voice called out. The screen door swung open and out stepped a man in a button-up red and white t-shirt that was playfully decorated with flowers. Standing before Naruto with his bald head glistening from the sun and a single hand holding his signature cane was none other than Master Roshi himself. The martial artist stroked his beard with his free hand as he asked, "Who might you be?" "My name is Son Naruto and I have come in search of my father's master," Naruto said as he pressed a closed fist against an open palm as he bowed before the old turtle hermit. "I have some letters here for you from Mr. Hashirama." "Wait, did you say your last name was Sun?" Roshi exclaimed, his iconic sunglasses nearly slipping off his face as his beard hid his wide grin. Hey, you're just like your old master, Goku. So you're the child of Son Goku. Well, your hair is different but the smile and tail. That outstanding strength. Hey, you're his son all right. Master Roshi confirmed after studying Naruto's features and getting a brief reading on his strength. He thanked Naruto for bringing him his letters and the package that his oldest friend had sent. He could only hope it was a new dirty magazine. Hee. Well, not to brag, but I am the strongest after all, and I guess it makes sense my dad would also be pretty strong as well, Naruto said confidently, some arrogance slipping into his tone at the acknowledgement of his power. "The strongest, you say? That is a very bold claim," Roshi commented as he stroked his beard, starting to wonder how strong Naruto truly was and if he was the ace they needed up their sleeve for the approaching Saiyan threat. "It's the truth," Naruto assured the martial arts master. You wouldn't mind if I test out your strength for myself?" The monkey-tailed boy was more than happy to agree to Master Roshi's request, but he was worried the old master wouldn't be able to keep up. "You sure you'll be okay?" Naruto asked, worried he might hurt the old man if he used too much of his power. "I think I'll manage," Roshi said with a smile, waving off Naruto's concern as he walked away from his home and closer to the shore. "If you say so," Naruto muttered as he watched the turtle shell-wearing man waddle over to his spot with an elderly stride. Naruto felt a bead of sweat slide down his cheek as he gave Roshi a deadpan stare. "All right, boyo, I'm ready. Come at me." At Roshi's order, Naruto charged with his arm and fist drawn back for a heavy haymaker. Strong enough to send the old man flying but not cause any serious injuries. That was what Naruto was expecting, but what the youth didn't expect was for Roshi to duck under Naruto's punch, his sandals swiping the sand as he maneuvered so he was standing with his back towards the stunned Saiyan. Roshi gave a cheeky grin under his beard as he said to Naruto, "Remember to take it easy on me, I am old after all." "Hey!" Naruto rushed back with newfound excitement, throwing a multitude of punches and kicks that the martial artists dodged effortlessly with his hands tucked behind his back. Naruto tried to surprise Roshi with a suppressed ki shock wave, but the martial artist proved his adaptability by jumping over the attack. The old master wasn't necessarily faster than Naruto, but he didn't seem to waste any of his movements, planning ahead of time and dodging with his own basic instincts, an instinct that could only be gained through years of experience and wisdom. Naruto, too busy underestimating Roshi, wasn't prepared for a small ki blast to be thrown into his face, temporarily blinding the half-breed and leaving his tail open to be snatched and held in a tight grip. Naruto felt woozy, off balance and tired all at the same time. Rubbing his face, Naruto looked over his shoulder with sloth-like movement, Eyes narrowed once he spotted Roshi was the one who was exploiting his weakness, a weakness he didn't even know about. Wah! Naruto barely managed to mumble out before being bonked on the head by a laughing Roshi. Got ya, my boy. Roshi laughed as he let Naruto's tail go, watching as the half-breed Saiyan shook his head, his strength slowly returning, but his eyes looked cautious but also intrigued. "Tch, sneaky old man," Naruto complained as he wrapped his tail tightly around his waist, walking towards Roshi with his arms crossed as the old master seemed to be thinking quietly to himself. Roshi was broken from his thoughts by Naruto's comment, chuckling as he said, "Perhaps, but nonetheless, you are strong, truly. Your strength easily outshines your father when he was this age, but you lack concentration, technique and a proper way to harness your power." Roshi was expecting a lot of things from the boy. Strong in power, yes, but still very young in age, perhaps not old enough to understand the wisdom of what the old turtle hermit was trying to say and might lash out because of it, but instead the young man bowed very deeply, sounding extremely humble as he asked, "No, begged, please master, teach me. I wish to be a better warrior and to surpass my father. Normally I won't take just anyone as my student, but you are the son of my greatest pupil and have won the favor of one of my oldest friends. I will train you in the turtle hermit way," Roshi said proudly, unprepared for the sudden surprise hug. Thank you, Naruto repeated over and over before letting the old master go, ready to begin his training. "Can we start training now?" "Hey, he really is like you, Goku," Roshi thought to himself with a shake of his head, adjusting his sunglasses as he explained, "Not today, my boy. Given how strong you are, I have to make some plans to adjust to your level, but we'll start right away tomorrow. Go home and rest. One of the rules of the turtle hermit way is to rest well after all." "Right, master." Naruto saluted before slowly floating into the sky, waving goodbye to the old master as he yelled, "I'll see you tomorrow, master." "See you tomorrow, my new pupil," Roshi said as he waved the flying boy goodbye, quietly thinking to himself, "I better call Bulma and let her know of this new development. That boy will definitely help us defeat the Saiyans." The Saiyan youth was practically beaming as he flew through the clouds, intending to head back home when he felt a familiar weak spike of energy. The long-haired stranger was finally awake. Naruto didn't waste a second before he flew in the direction of Hashirama's home, forgetting his manners in his moment of excitement as he ran into the large home. More than familiar with the path to the mysterious stranger's temporary room, Naruto entered expecting many things. Not Tsunade attempting to bash the scowling stranger's head in, but was held back barely by a nervously laughing Hashirama. "Calm down, Tsunade. He didn't mean any harm," Hashirama said in an attempt to ease his granddaughter's growing fury, but just like his beloved wife, God rest her soul, she was stubborn and hard-headed. Tsunade growled as she glared daggers at the smirking older Saiyan, her honey-brown eyes narrowed into slits as she barked, "This bastard called me a serving wench, and demanded I bring him food. Tch, attempting to harm a man while he's injured, have you no honor, girl?" The long spiky-haired man questioned, wincing as he attempted to stand. "I'll show you honor," Tsunade roared as she almost broke free from her grandfather's strong grip. "I knew you were awake." Naruto's happy exclamation had everyone in the room turning to face the young happy Saiyan, his tail unwrapping from around his waist in his excitement. You were the one who saved me," the injured man muttered, his eyes drawn to the boy's golden monkey tail, a tail not too dissimilar from his own. "So you really are a Saiyan?" "I don't know what a Saiyan is," Naruto replied sheepishly, scratching the back of his head with a laugh and smile, a smile that looked very much like his father's. The stranger grunted as he moved into a more comfortable position, saying, "It's what you are, boy. Your heritage." "My heritage," Naruto repeated with confusion written all over his face. The man nodded, telling the Saiyan youth, You don't have the typical look for a Saiyan, but given you're a half-breed, I'm not surprised. What are Saiyans? Naruto asked with a tilt of his head, raising a questioning brow. The Saiyans were once a mighty race of star-traveling conquerors. The strongest and most ruthless warriors to ever grace the universe, with a rising kingdom that could only be rivaled by the Cold Empire. At least, we were. The mysterious stranger explained, with his tone becoming more somber near the end. He could still remember where he was the day it happened. He was on a nameless planet with the Prince, Vegeta the IV, the Saiyan elite Nappa, and 2 low-class Saiyans like himself, although those 2 didn't last long anyway. What happened to them? Naruto asked, wanting to know what happened to his people. Tsunade was curious as well, but she was also incredibly weary of the man, thinking he was nothing but trouble. What I and my 2 fellow Saiyans were told at the time was that our planet Vegeta was hit by an asteroid, destroying our home and nearly wiping out our entire race for good. Raditz told his fellow Saiyan sadly, his mind drifting to his mother and father, wondering what they were doing in their final moments, wondering if they were together. Did they think of him as death approached? Did they think of Kakarot? Tsunade scowled as she crossed her arms, accusing the injured Saiyan. If that's the case, then why did you come to this planet? To conquer and kill every last person here. The injured warrior flared his ki, glaring at Tsunade, even impressed by her courage as she glared back. Silence, foolish girl. I came here on my own accord, not in the name of taking over your miserable planet. Why did you come to Earth? Naruto asked, drawing the long-haired Saiyan's attention once more. I came in search of my brother, Kakarot. Naruto did his best not to interrupt the man, silently remembering to himself that was the name he was muttering in his sleep. The mysterious Saiyan continued, he was sent away from our planet before it blew up. My mother sent his quadrants to my scouter in a secret message. A message I didn't hear until a year ago. Hashirama had his arms crossed, eyes narrowed as he deduced, given the form we found you in, your brother wasn't pleased to see you, was he? The mysterious stranger held eye contact with Hashirama, holding a tense silence before gruffly replying, no. No, he wasn't. Why? Naruto's question made his fellow Saiyan look away, eyes glazed from the memories of the battle that nearly took his life. Quote. He refused to answer at first, his silence more than speaking enough for how he felt and how things resolved between himself and his little brother. It doesn't matter. He won, I lost. Did you guys fight? Naruto asked, his curiosity getting the better of him. We did. Why? It was such a simple question, and yet, the mysterious stranger still felt a great weight as he answered honestly. Because he refused to listen to me, because I was too prideful to see he wasn't the Saiyan I thought he would be. Because I was weak. His voice became close to a whisper near the end, his brows narrowed and his fist clenched tight as if admitting his own weakness was a hit to his pride. His pride as a warrior and as a brother. Naruto, while still a child, had a bright and hopeful outlook. He gave a smile full of innocence, his voice soft as he said, I'm sorry you guys had a fight, but maybe when you see each other again, you can say sorry and make up, and then maybe you can be brothers again. The stranger kept himself turned away from Naruto, stuck thinking about what the boy said. Wondering if it was possible for himself and Kakarot to be an actual family. Hashirama, noticing that the elder Saiyan wasn't in a talking mood, started to guide his granddaughter and the Saiyan child out of the room. Come along, Naruto, he needs his rest. Naruto gave one last glance over his shoulder, giving a sad smile that the man couldn't see, saying honestly, I hope you feel better soon, mister. Before Naruto could fully leave the room, his fellow Saiyan decided to tell him his name, Raditz. My name is Raditz. Outside the Senju household, Naruto was in a joyful mood, his arms folded behind the back of his head as he branded his happy grin for Hashirama and Tsunade to see. Tsunade, who was still a little ticked off from the rude Saiyan's comments, glanced at her fellow blonde with a raised brow, asking, "What's with the good mood?" "I finally know his name," Naruto replied simply, making the older girl roll her eyes. "Doesn't take much to make you happy, huh?" Tsunade said, crossing her arms as she gave a deadpan stare to the grinning Saiyan boy. Hee hee. Naruto turned his happy visage to the older man, asking, "Hey Mr. Hashirama, would you mind if I stayed the night? I suppose that wouldn't be a problem, but wouldn't your family be worried?" Hashirama questioned, not wanting to worry the boy's family. Naruto waved off the old-timer's worry, saying, "Nah, they know I can take care of myself. Besides, I really want to speak more with Raditz after my training with Master Roshi." Hashirama accepted this with a nod, giving a kind smile as he said, "Well, if they don't mind then you can stay. Tsunade can show you your room." Naruto bowed in thanks. "Thank you, Mr. Hashirama. It is quite all right, my boy. Now if you will excuse me, I must rest. Healing Raditz took a lot out of these old bones." Hashirama told the two, excusing himself as he made to go retire in his room. "I'll bring you your supper soon, Grandpa," Tsunade told Hashirama, letting out a small smile as the man gently tousled her hair. "Thank you, Suna, Grandpa," Tsunade muttered in embarrassment, her cheeks flushing at Naruto's quiet chuckle. Hashirama shuffled into his home, leaving the two golden-haired children to sit outside, watching as the sun set beautifully behind twin mountains. Naruto watched with his arms crossed, letting out a content sigh before standing up, hand on his stomach as he said, "I'm starting to get hungry." "Did you want to go hunting with me, Tsunade?" "I guess I can," the ponytail-wearing girl replied with a shrug. "Did you want to make it a game?" Naruto asked, getting slightly excited at the thought of doing something fun with someone close to his age. Something he's never been able to do before. "A game?" Tsunade questioned with a raised brow. "Yeah, whoever hunts the biggest animal wins," was Naruto's simple explanation. In his mind he thought it would be fun. "That sounds dumb." Tsunade's reply had the monkey boy pouting, his tail twitching as he started to think of a way for Tsunade to change her mind. When the plan took root, Naruto turned his head away so Tsunade couldn't see his mischievous smile. "Yeah, I understand. I mean, I wouldn't want to play if I knew I was going to lose." "Hang on a second, who said I would lose?" Tsunade questioned with both hands on her hips, not liking what the monkey-tailed boy was implying as he tickled at her pride. "What are you getting at, shorty? We can make it more interesting if you want," Naruto answered with a shrug while at the same time sending the older girl a smug grin that he knew would awaken her competitive nature. "So you want to make a bet, huh? All right, fine. What do I get when I win?" asked Tsunade, wondering what Naruto would offer and if he would stay true to his word if he lost. "Whatever you want, but when I win, I want you to teach me a cool technique," Naruto declared, confident in himself that he would win. He held out his hand for Tsunade to shake. Tsunade didn't hesitate to shake Naruto's hand, giving a hearty nod as she accepted the younger boy's proposal with a loud, "Deal." "On the count of 3, Naruto said as he leapt to stand next to the taller girl, a grin on his lips as he moved into a running position, a form Tsunade mimicked. 1. The blonde-haired Saiyan started the countdown, glancing at Tsunade to see she was smirking. 2. Tsunade continued the countdown, actually starting to feel excited for the first bit of fun she's had in a long time. 3. Naruto and Tsunade yelled at the same time, only for the Saiyan boy to be lightly shoved back, giving Tsunade a head start. "Hey, that's cheating," Naruto cried out, but he never lost his smile, giving chase so he was only a hair's breadth behind Tsunade, giving the girl a cheeky grin as he declared, "Prepare to lose, Suna." Tsunade's cheeks flushed from both embarrassment and rage at the boy using her grandfather's pet nickname for her, "You're so dead." Hee. Naruto split away from Tsunade, going his own direction to hunt and to get away from the fuming girl. He used his years of honed skills to track down a herd of deer, but in Naruto's humble opinion, they weren't big enough. So, he continued on with his search, stopping when he found part of a carcass. What remained of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, it was still moderately fresh with its blood pooling on the ground. Naruto sniffed the air, crossing his arms as he hummed in thought. Whatever killed this mighty dinosaur was close and it was still hungry. Naruto's ear twitched as he heard a deep rumbling growl from the shroud of darkness. He narrowed his eyes as he extended his senses. Yet the little Saiyan didn't have to wait long before a roaring hot flame burst from the darkness, illuminating the area enough for Naruto to see nothing but red scales, giant yellow eyes and rows of sharp teeth. A dragon in all its glory roared down ferociously at Naruto as it spread its gigantic bat-like wings wide. A normal child would be sick with fear, frozen in place at the sight of a fiery death. Naruto just smiled as his eyes glinted mischievously. This would do. Naruto leapt into the without a hint of fear at the possibility of being burnt, soaring through the scoring flames, then appearing close to the dragon's snout with his fist drawn back. He hit the drake with enough force to send its head swinging to the side in a loud snap. Its wings tried to spread wide in defiance but steadily closed and the massive creature fell in a heap. Naruto gently patted the massive dragon, silently thanking the once mighty drake for the meal it was about to provide. Naruto lifted the beast overhead and started to fly away from the ashen area, closing his eyes as he channeled his ki, searching for Tsunade. With Tsunade, the granddaughter of the great warrior and healer Hashirama, walked silently but quickly as she searched for her own prey. While not as monstrous when it came to pure ki like Naruto, the high ponytailed girl still packed a decent amount of power herself, but also the concentration and control needed to use her ki effectively. Thanks to her near-perfect ki control, Tsunade had a near-perfect map of the area in her mind. She could even sense Naruto miles away. The honey brown-eyed girl moved throughout the trees, stopping when she felt a creature's ki weakening. Curious, Tsunade went to where she felt the disturbance, surprised when she found an injured doe barely able to stand on its injured leg but doing so anyway to protect its baby from a ravenous wolf pack slowly circling around the frightened pair. Tsunade could feel the fear, the need for the doe to protect her child even if it meant her life must end. The girl acted without thinking, landing with a yell as she punched the earth, breaking apart the ground into uneven pieces of rubble, frightening the pack of wolves and sending them scurrying away with their legs tucked between their legs. Tsunade dusted her hands with huff, frowning as she turned to face mother and child, losing her frown when she saw the poor injured creature was scared of her. "It's okay," Tsunade whispered in a gentle tone as she approached slowly with one hand raised. The girl hoped the doe would sense she wasn't a threat and that all she wanted to do was help. After waiting a moment with her hand offered for the injured mother to smell, the doe looked at Tsunade and slowly laid down, making sure to be in a position that didn't disturb her injured leg. The fawn nuzzled into its mother before hesitantly walking to Tsunade, mimicking what its mother did, then nuzzling its own head into the girl's palm. Tsunade cooed at the baby deer, being gentle as she pet the creature before moving on to its mother. Tsunade channeled her ki into an ancient technique passed down by her family for generations, taught to her by her grandfather. Rapidly, the doe's wound started to heal, and in mere seconds, it was as if there wasn't a wound to begin with. The doe nuzzled Tsunade's cheek in thanks before getting up on shaking legs, quickly finding her balance and then leaving with her fawn. Tsunade watched them go with a sad smile, happy she was able to save a life. Some might say it was insignificant, that it didn't matter and all she did was delay the pack of wolves for another day. Tsunade didn't see it like that, it was much more personal than that. Shaking away the depressing thoughts, Tsunade continued in her hunt, never noticing Naruto in the sky watching with a smile, dead dragon in hand. The Saiyan boy flew back to the house, leaving the girl to continue hunting at her own pace. Tsunade walked around the forest for a while until she came upon an area with towering trees and an ominous feel. Tsunade walked into the middle of a clearing, pretending to be unaware of the giant serpent eyeing her from a nearby tree. The blonde ponytail-wearing girl smirked as the snake launched itself at her with its mouth wide when the time was right, intending to swallow her whole in one bite. The massive serpent didn't see Tsunade disappear in a burst of speed, appearing above its head with her foot drawn high in the air and then brought down in a mighty stomp, crushing the snake's head in a single blow. Tsunade admired her kill with a smile, lifting the titanic boa over her head then taking to the skies back to her home. Much later, near a roaring fire, Tsunade sat grumbling as it turned out Naruto's dragon was bigger than her snake. She begrudgingly admitted she lost the bet and the two sat next to each other as the meat cooked on a spike. Tsunade glanced at the short boy, raising a bow when she noticed he had his eyes closed and he seemed to be focused on concentrating his ki in a way Tsunade couldn't even describe. Curious, she asked, "What are you doing?" "I'm working on a technique I made myself," Naruto replied as he opened a single eye, his usual kindness and mischievousness replaced by a gentle but serious gaze. Tsunade couldn't help but be impressed. She gave the Saiyan his deserved praise. "That's pretty incredible. Not many people can create their own techniques, especially at your age." "What kind of technique is it?" "Give me your hand and I'll show you," Naruto said as he held out his hand for Tsunade to place her against. The girl raised a brow at the Saiyan boy but followed his request nonetheless. Tsunade went to press her palm against Naruto's but found herself unable to do so. Tsunade frowned her brows in thought. She tried to add more strength but still the results were the same. Even using ki was pointless as her hand stayed in the same place. It was as if no matter how hard she tried, she would never make contact with Naruto's hand. "Is it some kind of barrier?" questioned the older girl, still trying to figure out what exactly Naruto's technique is. "Sorta. It's a super special move I've been working on for a while. I'm calling it Limitless," Naruto declared with a grin, more than proud of himself for the cool name or so he thought. "So how does it work?" asked Tsunade, still trying to get past the invisible force keeping their hands apart. Naruto sighed as he used his other hand to scratch the back of his head as he let out a "It's kind of hard to explain but I think the best way to explain it is that it's basically infinite, I guess." "Huh," Tsunade said with a slight tilt of her head. "I'm not really stopping you. I'm just slowing your hand so much it doesn't even look like it's moving but you'll never reach me. This distance between us will always be infinite," Naruto explained, grinning up at Tsunade as he released his technique, letting their hands touch, "unless I don't want it to be." "Hey, I thought you were just some simple monkey boy. I didn't expect you to be so creative," Tsunade complimented the younger boy, rolling her eyes at his happy smile. Hee. Tsunade still felt curious, asking, "Now how did you manage to come up with something like that?" "It came to me in a dream," Naruto said nonchalantly with a shrug. "A dream, huh?" Tsunade replied with a roll of her eyes but accepted the answer regardless. Her mind chose that moment to remind her of the bet they made and the fact that she lost. "So, a deal is a deal. I'll teach you something I know but I doubt it'll be as impressive as that limitless technique," Tsunade stated before asking the Saiyan, "What do you want me to teach you?" "I want to be able to heal people and myself like you do. Teach me that cool healing thing you did," Naruto pleaded for the older girl to mentor him in the arts of healing. Hang on there. That's a very important and ancient healing technique of the Senjus. I can't just teach it to you," Tsunade explained, her face taking a slight hue as she remembered the only other way for someone to learn from her family was by joining her family through a marriage, an old and stupid tradition Tsunade thought to herself in embarrassment. "Please," Tsunade-sensei. Naruto begged, clasping his hands above his head as his monkey tail slowly moved side to side. "Tch, I can't believe I'm doing this," Tsunade muttered as she dragged a hand down her face with a sigh. Turning to the monkey boy, she poked chest as she said, "If I'm going to teach you, you have to listen to my every word and you can't slack off. Healing might not be as destructive or crazy like other moves, but it's just as important, you got that?" "Yes, ma'am," Naruto replied as he stood up straight, giving a salute much to the older girl's amusement. Tsunade cut off pieces of meat, placing it in small and even pieces with a decent portion of rice and vegetables on a plate. "Good. I'll go bring Grandpa something to eat, I won't be long." "Okay. See you soon," Naruto said as he went back to munching on his roasted dragon leg, briefly stopping to lift his head and say, "I can sense you, ya know." Out of the shadow walked Raditz, his chest covered with fresh bandages. The older Saiyan moved to sit next to the young boy, blinking in surprise when said boy offered him the other dragon leg. It was at that moment that Raditz realized he hadn't eaten in days. With a nod of gratitude, Raditz accepted the food offered to him, eating with his fellow Saiyan in silence, or rather momentary silence, as Naruto asked, "I'm glad to see you're feeling better." "You are?" Raditz questioned, after attacking the dragon leg with a hefty bite. "Yeah, now I'll be able to learn more about you and the Saiyans," Naruto responded happily, his tail swaying calmly. Raditz stared into the fire with a troubled gaze, his chest in pain, not from his wound but rather guilt. "Boy, you wouldn't be helping me if you knew who I was or what I've done." Naruto was silent as he studied Raditz, wanting to know what was silently destroying his fellow Saiyan on the inside. "Your kindness is wasted on me. Tch, such a thing shouldn't even be possible for a Saiyan, but for whatever reason, you and Kakarot," Raditz scoffed as he started to think of his brother. "Who's Kakarot? Is that your brother?" Naruto asked as he put aside his food, giving his full attention to the older Saiyan. "Kakarot is my brother, but he's also your father," Raditz revealed, glancing at his nephew to see how he would take the news. Naruto's brows scrunched up in confusion. He crossed his arms as he strongly said, "My father's name is Son Goku." Raditz scowled as he barked, "That is his earthling name. His true name is Kakarot, son of Bardock and Jin." "Wait, so that means," Naruto whispered to himself as he realized who the man sitting next to him actually was. "That's right, I'm your uncle," Raditz confirmed as he went back to staring at the fire. "I've never had an uncle before," Naruto muttered before remembering what the older Saiyan told him earlier that day. "So that brother you were fighting, that was my dad." "It was. But why wouldn't I help you? Just because you got into a fight with your brother. Don't brothers fight?" Naruto asked, confused on what his uncle could have done that was so bad that it would make him hate him. Raditz growled as he rose to his feet, the weight of the guilt becoming near unbearable as he confessed his sins to his nephew, "Because your father died trying to kill me with that Namekian. Do you understand now, boy? Your father is dead because of me." "What, nothing to say? Aren't you angry at what I've done? Don't you want me to pay?" Raditz roared angrily at the child, in a way, expressing his own anger and shame at himself for his failure as a son and an older brother. Yet Naruto didn't attack the older Saiyan, he didn't go into a fit of rage. He just looked sad. Sad about what happened between his father and Raditz, sad that he didn't sense the conflict in time and that he wasn't there to change the outcome. "You feel bad about what happened. You didn't want to hurt my dad. I can sense it. What would a brat like you know?" Raditz whispered as he left Naruto to sit by himself, going back inside the Senju household so he may rest and think over his nephew's words. While the lone Saiyan sat silently, Tsunade chose that moment to make herself known, asking, "Are you okay?" Yeah, I'm okay, but I don't think he is," Naruto said sadly, meaning his uncle. "Tsunade, not liking the downtrodden look on the usually joyful monkey boy's face, said, "Hey, you still want me to teach you?" Naruto's emotions made an upward spike as he let out an excited, "Yes. What do I gotta do first?" Tsunade giggled lightly as she explained, "All right, well, first things first, control and mastery of your ki." Tsunade spent the remainder of that night teaching Naruto the basics, impressed that he took to her teachings like a fish in water. When it was morning, Naruto said his goodbyes to both the Senjus and Raditz, promising he would be back. With a burst of silver aura, Naruto was soaring back home towards Jingle Village to go see his mother and as well grab something special. Came house. It was a gorgeous evening, and on this day, the martial artist Master Roshi sat on the beach that surrounded his home. He was resting under the single palm tree next to his oldest pet and companion, a sea turtle. Both man and creature of the sea sat in content as the sun glistened over the still ocean water, their peace disrupted by the sound of an engine as one of Capsule Corps' smaller plane designs landed on his island. "Hey Roshi, I'm here. What's so important you couldn't tell me over the phone?" A woman, a rather attractive one at that, asked as she jumped out of the cockpit of her plane, pressing the side of her vehicle and watching as it shrunk into a couple with a loud boom. "Bulma, glad you could make it," Roshi said as he led the woman into his home, offering her some tea as they took a seat at the table. "So, what is it? Did Krillin and the others become crazy strong in a short amount of time or something?" Bulma asked in a random guess, frowning when Roshi shook his head. "No, it's nothing like that. While they are training hard, I don't believe they will be enough to defeat the Saiyans," the old master said honestly. "Then what is it?" Bulma asked, starting to become slightly impatient as she wondered what this was all about. "His name is," Roshi was cut off by a youthful voice calling out to him from outside. "Master, I'm back." Roshi chuckled as he stroked his beard in amusement, gesturing for Bulma to follow as he said, "Ah, speak of the little devil and he shall appear. Come, let's go say hello." The heir to Capsule Corp was expecting a lot of things, but a child with blonde hair, a bright familiar grin and a monkey tail was not one of them. Bulma went slack-jawed as she turned to face the cheekily grinning master, saying, "Tell me he isn't. Looks like our boy Goku has been busy hey. Naruto was standing proudly in his orange gi that covered his yellow long-sleeved shirt that his mother made for him. His martial artist pants matched the color of his gi, being held tightly in place by a turquoise sash. His boots left footprints in the sand as he walked up to the stunned Bulma, holding out his hand as he unknowingly greeted one of his father's oldest friends, "Son Naruto, it's nice to meet you." Hearing Naruto's name caused Bulma's short-circuiting brain to reboot. The purple-haired woman shook her head to rid herself of the shock, greeting Naruto back with an awkward, "Likewise. So what are we doing today, master? You'll like this, my boy. I'll be teaching you a move that your father learnt from me," Roshi declared proudly, finding the boy's excitement infectious. It's been a while since he had a pupil to train. "Really? That's right. Today is the day I teach you the Kamehameha." Roshi walked over to the shore of his island, stabbing his brown cane into the sand as he cupped his hands to his side, slowly starting to chant the name of his most powerful technique as a blue ball of ki appeared between his cupped hands. Roshi bellowed out a loud, "Ha!" as he thrust his hands forward, sending out a clean and flawless ki wave that parted the sea itself. Roshi cancelled the power behind his technique, letting the sea fall back to calmness as he turned to face his new pupil, his grin visible even through his beard as he said, "Not bad Naruto had stars in his eyes as he whispered, "That was so cool. Now it's your turn. I want you to do what I did. Just follow my movements and believe in yourself." The young Saiyan nodded as he listened to his master's advice. Naruto walked up to where Roshi was standing previously, moving his body so he was in a similar stance as he cupped his hands by his side. Do you think he can do it on his first try? Bulma asked, finding herself feeling a little nostalgic at the sight of Naruto. Roshi nodded confidently, having total faith in Naruto's ability. If this boy is anything like his father, then I know he will. Naruto had his eyes closed in concentration, breathing in and softly out as he channeled ki between his hands. Me. Roshi watched eagerly as the island started to take a blue tint from the power of Naruto's charging ki. Even Bulma, a regular human who had no access to ki, was left stunned as she stared in wonder. Water and sand swirled around the Saiyan boy in an intense dance as he continued with his chant, Me. For a moment, to Roshi's stunned eyes, it looked as if Goku's spirit was beside Naruto, his hands cupped next to his son to help him concentrate his energy. Roshi blinked and what he assumed was the spirit of Goku was gone. All that was left was his son, the hope of Earth until Goku would make his much-needed return. Naruto snapped his eyes open, glowing blue and fierce. The prodigious child released his ki wave with a thrust of his hands and a roar that reached the heavens themselves. The sea could not withstand the power of Naruto's ki wave. The waves split apart on almost biblical proportions. Poor Bulma was left stunned as she stared slack-jawed, unable to comprehend what the smiling child had done. Even if his father was capable of similar feats in her youth, it still left poor Bulma baffled every time. Just how far will you continue to grow, Naruto? Roshi quietly thought to himself, approaching the young Saiyan to congratulate him and begin their training for the day. Whenever the youth was taking a break from training, he would take the chance to speak with Bulma, asking her all types of questions about his father, listening to her amazing stories about her adventures with him. When Naruto found out there was a plan to wish his father back with the Dragon Balls, a mystical set of 7-starred orbs with the power to summon a great dragon who could grant you one wish and that wish would be used to bring back Son Goku when the time was right. Now all there was left to do was nothing but train for the rapidly approaching Saiyan threat. Exactly 6 months have passed since Naruto found his uncle Raditz and started his training under his new master, Roshi. Naruto was a diligent and hard-working pupil, taking to Master Roshi's lessons like a fish to water. He was a natural-born prodigy when it came to martial arts and the Kame style seemed only right, considering it was the same form of martial arts that his father used. Naruto had become a near master in all the fighting forms while the discipline needed to use them effectively was ever growing in the hyperactive boy. Meditation turned out to be surprisingly effective. Once again the Saiyan youth surprised the old master with his adaptability to his teachings. Meditation seemed almost second nature to the boy. Was it his simple and joyful nature that made it so easy for Naruto? Or perhaps was it his Saiyan DNA? Could it be his humanity? Roshi had no clue, but what he did know was that Naruto would continue to grow, surpassing all expectations and going beyond even that. The next generation is truly gifted, it seems. Roshi thought to himself with a smile before calling Naruto over with a simple yell, "Lunch!" Naruto, dressed in his trusty orange and yellow gi, dusted the sand off his hands as he rushed inside the Kame house, drooling at the sight of a grilled fish the size of a man, a fried octopus, a massive sushi platter and enough rice to feed a family of 12. Naruto's stomach roared in anticipation as the monkey-tailed boy wiped away the drool from his lips, taking a seat at the table and clapping his hands together with a loud shout of, "Itadakimasu." Naruto was ravenous as he devoured the food like a black hole, only stopping to sip juice from a straw before returning to his food like a beast. Roshi shook his head with a chuckle as he silently ate from his plate at a much more civilized pace. Naruto wiped his mouth with the back of his arm as he let out a sigh of content, grinning over at his master as he said, "This is so good." "Thanks, Master Roshi. It's no problem, my boy. We need to get you as strong as possible." Roshi's statement had Naruto thinking about the approaching threat and how strong they could possibly be. "Hey Master, the Saiyans are going to be super tough, right?" Naruto asked, putting aside his food so he could focus on his master. Roshi stroked his beard with a hum, saying, "That is why every one of my students, your father's friends, are working as hard as they can. We may have greater numbers, but the Saiyans, if what I was told was true by Piccolo, then they are like nothing we have ever seen before." Naruto let out a sigh as he rested his chin on his palm, brows scrunched up in thought. "So the people we have aren't enough." "Don't fret, my boy, we have you and your brother," Roshi said absent-mindedly as he took a sip of his own drink, not quite aware of what he said until he turned to look back at Naruto, finding the Saiyan's jaw agape as he processed the bombshell the old master just let loose. "EHHHHHHH. Naruto yelled as he stood up and slammed his hands on the table. "I have a brother. Did I forget to mention that?" Roshi asked as he rubbed at his bald head sheepishly. "Where is he? What does he look like?" Naruto asked, his heart racing as he realized he had a brother, an actual brother. He always wanted one of those. "Well, you could say you both look very similar, except he has your father's dark hair and he has a tail like you." Roshi's words had Naruto in a daydream as he tried to picture what his brother looked like, and I believe he is currently training with Piccolo. "Piccolo, huh?" Naruto said as he thought about going to look for his brother, but he put that to the side for the moment as he asked his master a question that had been on his mind for months. "Master, do you know if there is a way to heal someone super fast?" "Why do you ask, my boy?" Naruto couldn't reveal it was actually for his uncle, the same man who got his father killed. So he wasn't entirely truthful. "Just in case we need it for the upcoming battle." Roshi hummed as he thought of Naruto's words. "Well, there are the senzu beans. Just one will bring you back to full strength and any wound would be healed as if it never existed." The old turtle hermit told his pupil, thinking it wouldn't hurt to maybe send him Korin's way so he may become familiar with the old cat. "Perhaps it's time you see Kami's lookout while you're at it." "You're definitely more than ready. Then I'll head there right away." "Where do I need to go, master?" Naruto asked as he rose to a standing position, rolling his shoulders and doing some light stretches to make his food go down quicker. "To the sacred lands of Korin, a bountiful forest to the west of the desert. There's a grand tower that reaches the sky itself, you can't miss it," Roshi told his pupil, making sure to be detailed as possible so he wouldn't get lost. "Right, I'm on my way," Naruto yelled as he ran out of Roshi's home, taking to the skies in a burst of silver, only to return seconds later with a sheepish smile as the Saiyan boy asked, "Master, which way is west?" Roshi chuckled before pointing in the direction of the west, saying, "That way, my boy." "I'm on my way," Naruto once again declared as he left Kame House and took to the skies, heading west as he hoped to get a senzu bean for his Uncle Raditz. While he was healing fast, he would be in no condition to help for when the Saiyans arrive. He needed to be able to fight as soon as possible, and the senzu beans seemed to be the only way to do that. As Naruto flew through the bright blue sky, he started to think of his brother, once again wondering what he looked like, what he sounded like, if he was kind and gentle or if he was hyper and playful like Naruto himself. Nevertheless, the Saiyan boy promised himself he would find his brother once he had fully healed his uncle. In a world beyond Earth, the heavens if you will, was a small planet surrounded by endless yellow clouds. On this planet was none other than Son Goku, the father of Naruto and Gohan, training hard by the instruction of his new mentor King Kai. Said Saiyan was taking a break, breathing heavily as his body was still adjusting to the gravity of King Kai's planet, thanking the monkey Bubbles as he took a towel and wiped his face with it. Goku sighed as he took a seat on the soft grass, staring up at all the yellow clouds with a thoughtful look. Goku was left worried for 6 months. Upon his arrival at King Yema's desk, the warrior of Earth learnt that his brother did not in fact die and that he was still alive on Earth but greatly injured and wouldn't be recovering anytime soon without aid. While troubled, Goku still ran along the great and long snake way with the intention of being trained by King Kai, but it wasn't until he finally made it to said God's planet and became his pupil did he find out the reason Raditz survived was because he was found by his son, a son Goku didn't even know about. So with King Kai's help, Goku finally was able to see what his son looked like, and learned his name from simply observing him. The strongest warrior of Earth was surprised by Naruto, especially since his son could see a light in Raditz that Goku could not. The younger son of Bardock thought his older brother was a lost cause, evil just like the Saiyans that steadily approached Earth, but it seems day by day, Naruto had slowly begun to chip through the shield Raditz had placed around himself and perhaps could redeem his brother where Goku could not. That was why he hadn't told anyone on Earth that Raditz was alive. While he didn't know Naruto as well as Gohan, that was still his son and he trusted him. "You're doing well, Goku. I'm sure you'll master the Kaioken in no time." King Kai praised his new student as he sipped on some tea, his monkey Bubbles cooing by his side. Goku grinned at the blue-skinned big man, laughing as he said, "Hee hee, thanks King Kai. I already feel way stronger than how I was back on Earth." King Kai nodded sagely as he took note of Goku's growth in strength. "Yes, your growth has been most impressive. You may become my most gifted student." The Kai looked at his pupil with a raised brow, not used to seeing the Saiyan looking so lost in thought. "Thinking about your son." Goku let out a sigh as he rested his cheek on his palm, mumbling, "I can't believe I didn't know he was out there. Why didn't Suno tell me? Who can say? Perhaps she had her reasons, perhaps she didn't wish to disrupt your life." King Kai said wisely, as he knew no one could truly know why Suno did what she did but Suno. "Maybe, but I'm sure Chi-Chi would have understood," Goku whispered out before his eyes sprung open, leaping to his feet as he held his head in despair. "Oh man, Chi-Chi. How am I going to explain this to her? Ha ha ha, I don't envy you, my pupil. From what I heard, your wife can be quite frightening." King Kai accurately deduced, having no idea how frightening Goku's wife could truly be when she was upset. "You have no idea," Goku said, scratching the back of his head as he thought of his wife, his sons, his friends who were all surely working hard, and the Saiyans who were only half a year away. "Just keep working hard, everyone. It won't be much longer before I'm back home. I'm also looking forward to meeting you, Naruto." The son of Goku passed through the vast desert, hand hovering above squinted eyes as Naruto searched for the forest with the tall tower that his master told him to find. He had been flying for a good hour in his search, the heat of the desert not quite affecting him from this height but still steadily started to build up a sweat on the Saiyan youth. "Oof, it's hot here," Naruto muttered to himself, his eyes scanning the landscape until he came upon a vast forest, faintly spotting what he hoped was Korin's tower. He landed in a clearing, admiring the tall white pillar with a whistle and a smile. Then his attention was drawn to a roaring fire and where a large hut wasn't too far from. Out from the hut walked a young man with dark skin and beady eyes. He had his long black hair braided with a red and white feather resting in the back of his hair. It was clear he was a native of these lands. "Who goes there?" His call drew the attention of a much larger, even more imposing man, who Naruto could only assume was the older boy's father. "Yo, the name's son Naruto, nice to meet you." The Saiyan boy greeted the father and son duo with a wave. The father approached cautiously, asking the monkey-tailed boy, "You wouldn't happen to be related to Son Goku?" Naruto couldn't help but give a cheeky grin as he scratched the back of his head with an impish grin. "Well, he is my father." "Ah ha ha, I should have known with that smile and tail. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Bora and this is my son Upa. We're friends of your father." The now named Bora greeted as he introduced his son, walking up to Naruto to shake his hand, an action his son mimicked. "I didn't realize my dad had so many friends," Naruto said in amazement. Both Bora and Upa smiled fondly as they thought of the spiky-haired boy who dared to fight against the Red Ribbon Army and help Upa bring his father back from the dead. Your dad is a special person with a good heart. You can't help but want to become his friend. Naruto gave a sweet sincere smile as he gazed up at the sky, quietly saying, I'm starting to realize that. What brings you out here? Questioned Upa, hoping there was a way he could help Naruto. My master sent me to go to Korin's tower and after that, Kami's lookout. Naruto told the father and son as he gestured a thumb at the pillar. Well, you're definitely in the right place. All you have to do is travel up that pillar and you'll find Korin. Naruto let out a relieved sigh at the native man's words. Awesome. I thought I was in the right place. Sorry I have to go, I'm kind of in a hurry. It was really nice meeting you both, Naruto said as he started to walk towards the white stone structure that was connected to Korin's tower. Good luck, Naruto. Bora wished the Saiyan boy, waving goodbye with his son as Naruto started to float, then took off with a wave of his own. Within minutes, Bora and Pua became nothing but tiny specks on the ground and still Naruto had yet to reach Korin's tower. It was only after he had passed the clouds and even then it took 5 more minutes before Naruto finally made it to the oval dome structure that is Korin's tower. Naruto gently floated down onto the floor, looking around with a hum until his eyes settled on a large fluffy cat standing on his hind legs with one arm behind his back while the other held a stick that was a makeshift cane. Naruto thought the animal was asleep and because of that he didn't think twice about walking up and petting the white fluffy cat, receiving a bonk on his head for his troubles. Hey! What the hell is the matter with you? You don't go around petting people. The cat, who was clearly Korin, yelled as he was embarrassed at having being petted by the Saiyan child. Naruto, who was rubbing his head, yelled back, I didn't know you could talk. Try asking next time, Korin said with an exasperated sigh. You're right, I'm sorry. Naruto apologized, sheepish at his own blunder. Don't sweat it, kid. Now, what can I do for you? Korin asked as he couldn't help but think Naruto reminded him of someone. I was sent here by Master Roshi because I was curious about senzu beans. Naruto explained, hoping the old cat would be kind enough to spare him a single bean. I see. So you're curious about senzu beans, huh? Korin asked as led Naruto over to a large pot, opening the lid to reveal it was full of green beans. Naruto wondered how something so small could heal someone instantaneously but decided not to question it as he told Korin, well, I was actually hoping to get one to heal someone. I suppose I can give you one of my senzu beans. Korin agreed as he stroked his small cat beard. Awesome. Naruto cheered much to the old cat's amusement. But I need you to do a little task for me. Naruto raised a brow at the 800-year-old cat. Sure. What do you need? The Saiyan boy asked, curious what task the feline would have him do. It's such a pain in my backside to get up and down my tower to get food and I'm feeling a little lazy today. Do you mind getting me a fish from the river down there? You do that and the senzu's yours. Korin swore, wondering if the boy would actually do his request. You can count on me, Korin. I'll be back in a jiffy. Naruto promised as he jumped out of the tower, going into a free fall with a happy yell. That boy, Korin muttered as he shook his head with a chuckle. River. Naruto found the river with no problem, using his ki to sense life in the water and found himself surprised with how deep it truly was. The still calmness was a deception to hide the many great beats swimming in its murky depths. Naruto had folded his gi neatly on a rock so as not to get it wet, leaving him only in a pair of baggy boxers. The Saiyan was already showing outstanding muscle development that shouldn't be possible for a child but was because of his Saiyan DNA. Naruto did a few little hops before leaping into the water with a medium-sized splash. Naruto traveled into its watery depths without fear, swimming past all the smaller fish as he was looking for something much bigger. Naruto was briefly still as he floated in the water, his hair swaying in the underwater current as he searched for Korin's meal. The monkey-tailed boy seemed unaware of the monstrous creature slowly drifting towards him with its mouth, filled with rows of spiked teeth, wide open. Yet it was Naruto who surprised the ruler of this river with a sudden turn, grinning devilishly at the massive fish as he launched himself forward and slugged the gigantic creature with a mean uppercut. A gigantic splash was the only warning any nearby creatures would get before a crash shook the area as the titanic tuna lay dead in the small crater its body had created. Naruto burst from the water seconds later, his soaked hair briefly obscuring his vision. The halfling shook his head like a wild dog, using his right hand to push his damp bangs back, staring at his catch with delight. He was sure Korin was going to be more than happy. The halfling dried himself with a burst of ki and within seconds he was back in his trusty GI. Naruto gripped the aquatic beast tightly by its tail fin, silver aura surrounding the boy like an unstoppable flame. Naruto was in the skies within seconds. It didn't take him long to mock it back to Korin's tower, calling out to the fluffy cat, "Hey Korin. Will this do? How are you supposed to fit that in here?" Korin asked, more than impressed by the monkey-tailed boy's catch. Naruto seemed to notice his blunder. The boy let out a little laugh as he said, "Whoops. Hang on a second Korin." The Saiyan boy flew away from the tower, spinning then throwing the titanic fish upwards. Naruto yelled as he dashed at the falling river creature, cutting the fish into even pieces with high-speed chops of his hand. He then took the decked-up fish and placed it neatly in front of Korin. "How's that?" "That's more than enough, thank you, kid," Korin said as he bowed his head. He then surprised Naruto by throwing him the Senzu bean. "You earned it." "Thanks Korin. It was nice meeting you," Naruto said as he leapt out of the tower, starting to ascend towards Kami's lookout, stopping when he noticed a long red pole sprouting from the top of Korin's tower, as if someone placed it there. Naruto couldn't help but reach out and touch what he now identified as a staff, watching in shock as it rapidly shrunk until it was the perfect size for the Saiyan youth. Naruto gave the staff a twirl and then a practice swing, smiling as he thought it felt right to use. "Well, I'm definitely gonna keep you." Naruto held the staff tight as he traveled higher and higher into the sky. Not quite reaching the upper atmosphere but still incredibly high, Naruto spotted what could only be described as an ancient red and gold floating platform with a wide flat square tiled surface. Palm trees were planted in elegant rows, currently being watered by a genie with skin as black as night. Wide eyes and a smile full of innocence turned to face the approaching Saiyan, saying, "Ah son Naruto. We have been expecting you." "Expecting me?" Naruto as he started to follow the genie to the grand building in the center of the lookout. "Indeed, although, I didn't think it would be so soon," the genie said, more to himself than Naruto, as he led the Saiyan boy inside and not before long, the halfling could see a noseless short-bald monk, speaking to a tall but old, green alien creature. "Kami, son Naruto is here." "Son?" the short monk questioned in disbelief, eyes bulging when he saw the boy's monkey tail and a very familiar staff. "Naruto, welcome. Thank you for bringing him, Mr. Popo," Kami said kindly as he walked over to meet Naruto. The monk, still in silent disbelief, walked with the deity of Earth, anxious to meet the son of his best friend. Naruto, not one to be rude, greeted them both with a friendly wave and a quick, "Yo. So you're Goku's son huh?" the bald monk asked as he rubbed his chin, inspecting the boy with a hum. "That's me. Well, it's nice to meet you. I'm your old man's best friend, Krillin." The short man introduced himself with a smile, one Naruto happily returned. "You must be super close with my dad, right?" Naruto asked as the half-human and full-blooded human moved to sit on some steps as they talked. "Definitely. Your dad is probably the most amazing man I've ever met. Krillin said, being completely honest, as the boy's father was the reason he was back from the dead after being killed by one of King Piccolo's spawn. Naruto gave a more somber smile as he rested his cheek on his hand, sighing as he said, "That's what everyone keeps telling me." Krillin patted Naruto on the shoulder, saying, "Hey, only 6 more months and then you'll be able to finally meet him, and I bet he's really looking forward to meeting you too." "You think so?" Naruto questioned, hoping what the bald monk was saying was true. "If I know Goku, which I like to think I do very well, he's just as excited as you are," Krillin said confidently, sending the smaller boy a grin as he thought of his oldest friend and how hard he was working in other world. Hee hee, I can't wait to meet him." Krillin, wanting to spend some time with the monkey-tailed boy, asked him, "Hey, want to see something cool I've been working on?" "Sure," Naruto agreed eagerly, never wanting to miss the opportunity to see a new technique. "Hey Kami, I'll be back for more training soon," Krillin promised as himself and Naruto started to float, flying away from the lookout to the earthy grounds below. "I'll inform Tenshinhan and the others. Take your time," Kami said as he waved goodbye to the two. After nearly half an hour of flying filled with chatter, mainly Krillin telling Naruto stories of his youth with the boy's father, the two warriors of Earth found a clearing for Krillin to brandish his new move safely. After having Naruto put himself at a safe distance, the blonde boy watched eagerly as the bald monk raised a single hand, manipulating and harnessing his ki to his desire. The ball of ki in his palm started to spin, becoming thin from the continuous motion. The more power Krillin pushed into his attack, the more it expanded. When the ki disc was ready, Krillin tensed his arm, taking aim at a formation of earth that was steadily on its way to becoming a mountain, and shouted the name of his attack with a mighty throw, Kenzan. The ki disc soared through the air at impressive speeds, reaching the formation of rock and bisecting the formation of earth and stone like a hot knife through butter. There was no resistance as it was cut in 2 even pieces that crumbled when hitting the ground. Naruto had stars in his eyes, leaping to his feet with a shout, "That was so cool, Krillin." Krillin couldn't help but appreciate the praise, laughing with his eyes closed as he rubbed the back of his bald head modestly. "Ha ha ha, thanks Naruto. I've been practicing on that one for a while, but I finally perfected it a couple days ago." "Pretty neat, huh? Could you teach it to me?" Naruto asked, hoping the bald monk wouldn't mind. Krillin did not. In fact, he was quite flattered the little Saiyan wanted to learn from him. "I don't see why not, but don't be discouraged if you don't get it right away." Krillin then directed Naruto where to go, saying, "Here, stand where I was and raise your hand like I did." "You got it, Krillin-sensei." Naruto responded back with a thumbs up. Krillin laughed at the blonde monkey-tailed boy. The fellow martial artist made sure to check Naruto's stance, correcting the boy if he needed it, but found there was very little needed to be corrected. Then he said, "What you want to do is generate ki in your palm, visualize in your mind the form you want your energy to take. Make it flat but sharp." Naruto did as he was instructed, generating his ki and attempting to manipulate it just like Krillin did, but for whatever reason, the Saiyan was struggling. Possibly because he was hungry. Naruto's mind soon drifted away from focusing on his ki and went to food instead. Pizza. Krillin's eyes widened in disbelief as the ki morphed and formed into a rapidly spinning disc just like the one he formed earlier. "Holy crap. Naruto, you did it." "Huh." Naruto looked up at his hand, eyes widening as a happy but shocked smile spread across his face as he threw the ki disc at a rock formation, slicing it in half just as Krillin did with his. Krillin's disbelief shifted into awe and pride and maybe a little envy as he thought, "Geez, it took me 6 months to master that move and you did it on your first try. Hey, you're definitely Goku's son. So cool. I really appreciate you teaching me, Krillin." "Think nothing of it. I've never really taught anyone before," Krillin said as he started to float in the air, Sorry to run like this, Naruto, but I gotta get back to my training with the others. I'll see you when the Saiyans arrive. You know it. Naruto promised with a salute and a cheeky grin, a grin Krillin couldn't help but match as he waved goodbye. Take care of yourself, kid. Bye, Krillin. Naruto yelled as he waved goodbye to the short monk. Having enjoyed the brief time they spent together, Naruto too started to fly. In a burst of silver, traveled across the sky in the direction of his home to go gather some money. I'll bring Uncle Raditz a surprise. The brother of Kakarot rested silently in his bed. It was all he could do as he slowly healed. The wound that damned Namekian had given to him was so grave that it seemed it would take perhaps another year before he was whole and in proper fighting condition. It was maddening for the Saiyan as he grunted, rising to a sitting position as he glanced towards the door. I can sense you, boy. Naruto peeked his head into the room with a sheepish grin, holding two large white boxes. You're getting good at sensing energy, Uncle Raditz. Raditz grunted in annoyance as he accepted the flat white square box with a rather appetizing aroma. TCH, I don't have a scouter anymore and I can't do anything without injuring myself. It's the only thing I can do to keep busy. That does sound like a pain, but I know what will make you feel better. Naruto started to lift the top of the box containing Raditz's delicious food, pizza. Raditz looked intrigued by the different types of meat, the melted cheese and all the different toppings that it couldn't help but make his mouth water. Is this an Earthling dish? MMHMM. One of Earth's best foods, right after noodles of course. Naruto told his uncle as he shoved nearly an entire slice of pizza into his mouth. Raditz found himself agreeing and found himself thinking that it was possibly the best thing he had ever eaten. The Earthlings aren't much, but the food is exquisite. I knew you would like it, Naruto said with a grin as he grabbed his third large slice. The two ate in silence. Naruto was thinking that even though his uncle wouldn't admit it, he had started to grow on the older Saiyan, slowly winning him over. Naruto put aside his food as he crossed his arms, becoming serious, something Raditz had never seen before. Hey uncle, if I said I had something that could heal you instantly, would you take it? What kind of question is that? Raditz asked with a scoff, shaking his head as he nearly finished his food. Naruto gave an exasperated sigh as he lightly glared at his uncle. Just answer the question. Raditz grunted as he looked away from his nephew, muttering, I suppose I would. Naruto smiled as he reached into his sash where he placed the Senzu Korin gave him earlier, holding it out for Raditz to take. Then here, eat this. Raditz gave Naruto a question look as he took the tiny green bean, asking, what the hell is this? It'll make you all better. Trust me. For better or for worse, Raditz did trust the little Saiyan. The boy had saved his life when he didn't have to. He continued to show him kindness even after learning about what happened to his father and his personal hand in it all. He owed Naruto a debt and he knew that, so he took the senzu and ate it. It was miraculous as he felt all his wounds and aches heal instantly just as Naruto had promised. Raditz had never felt stronger as he flexed his muscles, grinning as he was sure his power had grown 3 times in size. He had never felt more powerful in all his life. Much better, right? Thank you, Naruto. Truly. That was the first time Naruto had ever heard Raditz use his name. The boy couldn't stop grinning even if he wanted to. Tsunade chose that moment to enter the room, finding herself baffled when she saw Raditz was throwing punches, rolling his shoulder and moving in ways that shouldn't be possible for a man in his previous condition. Wow, Naruto, what's going on? We'll tell you later, Tsunade. Come on, Uncle Raditz, let's go flying. Naruto cheered as he leapt out the window, leaving the high ponytailed girl to stand there stunned as the boy's uncle followed suit. The two Saiyans soared through the cloudless sky. The night was shimmering with stars. It gave Raditz a chance to see some of Earth's beauty. So why have you brought me up here, boy? The older Saiyan questioned as he crossed his arms. Because I wanted to speak to you, Saiyan to Saiyan. Naruto said, catching his uncle's attention. The usually playful boy became more serious as he pointed out, your friends are coming to Earth. Raditz grunted as he looked away, muttering, they're not my friends. Naruto wouldn't let the issue be dismissed so easily as he continued, still, they're making their way here and you know just like I do what they will do when they finally arrive. Raditz grew more frustrated at the second as he knew what Naruto wanted to ask but was hesitant to do, growling out, just spit it out and say what you want to say, boy. I want you to fight with me when they arrive. Naruto made it sound simple but to Raditz it was anything but. Fight them. Perhaps we could take out Nappa but Vegeta. He'd slaughter us both and anyone who dares to stand up against him. Raditz knew how his fellow Saiyans thought, how cruel they were, not just to their enemies but even their own comrades. I don't care if he's the strongest Saiyan that has ever lived, I won't let them destroy my home and I want you to be there, or does your honor as a Saiyan mean nothing to you? Naruto asked, waiting to see how his uncle would respond and hoping that he would make the right choice. Damn brat, Raditz whispered as he clenched his fists tight. If this was mere months ago when he first met the boy then he would have scoffed and tried to fight the boy for his arrogance, but this was now. As much as he hated to admit it, he had grown fond of Naruto. Fine. They would probably kill me anyway for desertion. Hee hee. Thanks Uncle Raditz. The monkey-tailed boy said as he gave his uncle his signature grin. Yet that same grin took on a more serious undertone as his nephew continued, oh and uncle, if you ever think about betraying us. A flare of his power had the older Saiyan trembling in realization. He had no idea how vast the difference between their strengths was until now, and Raditz knew that this wasn't a threat but a warning from one Saiyan to another. I won't be happy. It can't be. Is he nearly as strong as Vegeta? Raditz thought nervously to himself as a bead of sweat rolled down the side of his cheek. He never planned on betraying Naruto, but this only cemented his loyalty and actually impressed the older Saiyan. If he was honest, he didn't know the boy had it in him. Raditz spoke honestly as he said, I owe you a debt, kid, and I'm going to honor it. I swear I will fight by your side, Naruto. Naruto seemed to search Raditz's eyes for a moment, becoming kind when they found what they were searching for. I know you will, uncle. Much more wasn't said after that. Only a challenge for a spar, a challenge Naruto happily accepted. The monkey-tailed boy fought his uncle well throughout the night, awakening Raditz's desire to train and become stronger just like his nephew. Another month had gone by, and during that time, Naruto and Raditz had trained near non-stop, only putting aside training for when Naruto had his lessons with Master Roshi, or for when Naruto would ask Raditz to tell him stories about the Saiyans, about Planet Vegeta and about his grandparents. While the older Saiyan was young when his home was destroyed, he still had many fond memories of the beautiful and kind woman his mother was. How strong and fierce his father always seemed. His determination and spirit, a Saiyan Raditz always inspired to be, but felt he came short in comparison. An inferiority complex that the man was steadily overcoming. Naruto had even brought his uncle over to meet his family, introducing his mother and Ader to the older Saiyan, who they welcomed with open arms and a feast for the two Saiyans. When Naruto wasn't spending time with his uncle or training with his master, he was talking and learning the arts of healing with Tsunade, becoming closer with the sassy girl and her kind grandfather. But today Naruto wasn't with any of the people he would consider precious. Today he was by himself in the green plains of his favorite hunting ground, staring up at the cloudy sky with a lazy smile, enjoying the peace of the land and the serenity that came with it. Boom. Or rather he was, until a heavy rumble disturbed Naruto's peace. The monkey-tailed boy leapt to his feet and followed the source of the disturbance, not taking too long before he found a rocky plain destroyed and disrupted from an intense battle or possibly an intense training session. Naruto moved his head to the side as a stray ki blast went soaring past his cheek, It didn't seem it was aimed directly at him but rather batted away by a boy in a purple GI with long spiky black hair. The boy couldn't be less than a year younger than Naruto. He looked exhausted, but even so, he fought like his life depended on it, and given how ferocious the green alien warrior, who could only be Piccolo Jr., was fighting the boy, he would likely need a break soon. "I know you're there," Piccolo called out to the monkey-tailed boy, moving to stand in front of Goku's youngest child, Gohan. Naruto rolled his eyes as he gently touched down on the ground, saying, "I wasn't exactly trying to hide, you know." "Who are you? Are you one of those Saiyans?" Piccolo kept himself on guard, moving to stand in front of Gohan, just in case the boy tried something. Naruto tried to de-escalate the quickly growing conflict, keeping his hands slightly raised to show he didn't mean any harm. "Well, I am a Saiyan, but I was born here on Earth. My name is..." But unfortunately for the monkey-tailed boy, his uncle chose a horrible moment to make a surprise arrival. "Naruto. I've been looking for you everywhere, boy." "No, it can't be," Piccolo whispered, eyes widening in horror. Gohan seemed to be paralyzed by fear at the sight of the man who kidnapped him and fought his father. "How the hell are you still alive?" "Nice to see you too, Namekian." Raditz grunted with a scowl, the scar on his chest a constant reminder of his brush with death and the one who honored him with such a terrible wound. The older Saiyan couldn't help but take a jab at the Green Warrior. "Looks like your arm grew back. I wonder if it will grow back a second time." "Why don't you come over here and find out, bastard?" Piccolo growled as he flared his ki, startling his pupil. "Whoa, whoa, whoa. There's no need to kill one another," Naruto yelled as he got between Raditz and Piccolo, holding his hands out to keep the two separated. "I guess you're the guy who nearly made Uncle Raditz bite the dust, huh?" "Uncle," Piccolo muttered as he stared at Naruto with a confused frown, his eyes briefly glancing to Gohan then back at Naruto, narrowing as he asked, "Who are you?" "Feels like I've been introducing myself a lot lately," Naruto joked, hoping to break the tension, but given the green man's stern face, he failed poorly. Naruto let out a sigh before straightening his back and introduced himself proudly. "The name's Son Naruto, and if I had to guess, you guys are getting ready for the Saiyan invasion, am I right?" "Your last name is Son?" Gohan asked, speaking up for the first time. Naruto turned his attention to the smaller boy, giving him a smile that he couldn't help but mimic. "Yep, and if I had to guess, your name is Gohan." "Why yeah," Gohan said timidly, wondering how this boy knew his name. Naruto's smile was sweet and gentle as he walked towards his brother. "I've been really looking forward to meeting you. I'm your older brother, Naruto." "Really? You're my big brother?" Gohan couldn't believe it, but somehow, he felt a connection to his fellow Saiyan. It was as if his instincts or maybe even his heart were telling him everything Naruto was saying was true. "Pretty crazy, right?" Naruto asked with a laugh. Piccolo was quick to show his distrust as he said, "Hang on, how do we know this isn't some trick?" Raditz felt offended on his nephew's behalf, growling out, "Question my honor all you want, but don't doubt the boy. He has no reason to lie." "I have no reason to trust you, Saiyan," Piccolo snarled, crossing his arms as he felt like he should just take Gohan and leave. Naruto felt like they weren't getting anywhere, especially with the way his uncle and Piccolo were acting, and the little Saiyan felt like he might have an idea to help them get over their issues. "You guys should fight." Raditz and Piccolo glanced at one another, then at Naruto, with his uncle asking, "What are you getting at?" Naruto shrugged, thinking it was all quite simple as he explained, "There's too much tension. Just fight and get over whatever issues you guys still have, otherwise how are we going to work together to take out the Saiyans?" "I'm game if you are, unless you're scared, Namekian." Raditz spoke first, offering the challenge and waiting to see if Piccolo would reciprocate. "TCH, I'll make you eat those words," Piccolo promised as he floated into the air, quickly followed by the older Saiyan. Naruto and Gohan moved to go sit on some rocks to watch the fight but also to talk and get to know one another better. Raditz and Piccolo both wasted little time before powering up to their full power. The Namekian was left a little disappointed and slightly infuriated to find the Saiyan's power was slightly greater than his own, but that didn't mean the battle was decided, far from it. Piccolo roared as he soared at Raditz, throwing out a high knee that was perfectly blocked, but Piccolo wasn't going to allow that to stop his ferocious assault. He went for a heavy elbow downwards, but Raditz was quick enough to get out the way but responded with a punch of his own that the Namekian warrior blocked with his arm. Piccolo showed quick thinking as he slammed a ball full of ki into Raditz's chest, sending the Saiyan spiraling backwards, but he managed to stop himself with a yell before immediately charging forward, nailing Piccolo in the stomach with a deathly gut punch. Piccolo's pupils briefly shrank as spittle left his mouth, but this mighty warrior persevered through the pain and reached out with both hands to snag the Saiyan by his long spiky locks and bashed his knee aggressively into Raditz's face. Gah! This temporary moment of stillness provided Piccolo with an opening. Right hook, left hook, right hook again, and a multitude of guts punches as payback, but Piccolo refused to end it there. No, he delivered a high kick to Raditz's chin, a kick so powerful that it sent Raditz flying into a pile of rocks. Ha! Piccolo threw his hand forward as he fired a Masenko packed with a decent amount of power at the rock-covered Saiyan, causing a blast that briefly illuminated the area yellow. When the rubble fell and the smoke cleared, Raditz was traveled to be completely unharmed bar the brief trickle of blood trailing down his chin. So you have grown stronger. I was worried you were just as weak as before, Raditz said, giving the Namekian a backhanded compliment as he strolled towards Piccolo, rolling his shoulder to smooth out any knots. Piccolo didn't let his anger overtake him. He knew that was what Raditz wanted. The green alien warrior charged forward, fist drawn back as he made it clear he intended to win this spar. Bastard, don't think this battle is over before it even started. Raditz blocked Piccolo's punch and then responded with an elbow to the chin, dazing Piccolo briefly but long enough for Raditz to grab the green warrior by his arm tight and throw him over his shoulder. Piccolo skidded across the ground like a stone until he made himself stop, lifting his head just in time to see twin purple ki blasts were quickly approaching his still form. Thinking and acting quickly, Piccolo fired a ki wave at the ground to send himself flying into the air, dodging Raditz's double sundae by the skin of his teeth. A flare of his instincts saved Piccolo from a nasty kick to the back of his head, eyes narrowed as he attacked Raditz back in retaliation. An epic dance of kicks and punches were exchanged between the two while Naruto and Gohan continued to talk. Naruto, who had been telling his little brother about his home and his family, finished talking by saying, "And I'll have to introduce you to my mom and Ader. I know they'd love to meet you." "I'd like to meet them too," Gohan replied, trying to picture the snowy land that was Naruto's home. "But it's pretty cold where I live, so we'd probably have to pack you a jacket," Naruto said, thinking out loud, not caring as the area shook from Raditz and Piccolo's latest clash. "I've never seen snow before," Gohan muttered, having spent all his life in a warmer climate near the mountain. "It's everywhere and there's tons of games we can play and we can even build a massive snowman together," Naruto promised, feeling his heart swell when he saw his little brother's eyes lit up in excitement. "That sounds like a lot of fun. Hee hee, I knew you'd like that idea. We're going to have so much fun together when we beat the Saiyan, and the best part is Dad will be there with us." Naruto could already picture it now. They'd go hunting, fishing, camping and spend time together like a proper family. It would be a dream come true. "I can't wait, big bro," Gohan told Naruto with a grin, laughing when the older blonde tousled his long spiky locks. "I can't either," Naruto said as he turned his attention back to the fight, watching just in time as Raditz smacked Piccolo back to the ground with a double axe handle. Giving chase as held one hand cupped by his side, generating tremendous power into a sparking pink ki blast. Let's see how you handle this. Once the ki blast left his hand, it grew rapidly in size, nearly dwarfing Piccolo as it drew closer and closer until it seemed as if it swallowed Piccolo whole, but the Namekian was stubborn as he was tenacious by flying over the attack. Faint whips of ki burnt part of his GI, but still he dodged the dangerous attack. Piccolo surprised Raditz by extending his arms at lengths the older Saiyan didn't know was possible. He was too surprised to act and found himself constricted in the Namekian's boa-like grip, struggling to breath as Piccolo started to swing his whole body and therefore Raditz as well to the ground, sending Raditz into a crater, but Piccolo didn't seem satisfied to let it end there, charging ki into his hands as he unleashed a barrage of ki blasts that destroyed the landscape, panting as he waited to see what Raditz would do next. Filthy slug! Raditz roared as he charged at the green alien warrior. He became shrouded in purple ki. His left arm was held straight as it led the charge. Raditz growled as he gathered ki to his right hand, the fist clenched so tight, his knuckles went white from the pressure. Piccolo waited until Raditz was just about to hit him and then dodged last minute, but not before shoving a ki blast into the Saiyan man's face, more in an act to temporarily blind rather than hurt. Piccolo succeeded in his endeavor, leaving Raditz to yell angrily as he clutched at his face, growling as all he could see was a white light. Naruto watched with a frown as Piccolo quickly landed on the ground, glaring at his uncle as he brought 2 fingers to his forehead, a vein bulging near as he startled to generate ki. His power spiking as he charged his ultimate technique. The flaring nature of Piccolo's ki was a perfect beacon for Raditz to lock onto even while blinded. He charged recklessly towards Piccolo as his vision started to clear, unaware of the danger that was near. Piccolo had finished charging his technique. He planted his feet and took aim, baring his teeth as he roared the name of his technique, Makenko-Seppo. A thin yellow ki beam followed by a second stream of purple ki coiling around the yellow beam like a snake. The deathly technique that nearly had Raditz on death's door was rapidly approaching, and as for Saiyan and his clearing vision, he could do nothing but float, frozen in the air by his own fear. Naruto could sense his uncle wasn't going to be able to dodge the deathly technique in time, so in a burst of speed that no one in the area could hope to follow, appeared in front of his paralyzed uncle and held his hand out, eyes glowing as he activated the power of Limitless and used the technique of his own creation to form a barrier with infinity. The powerful and deadly Makenko-Seppo drilled against infinity, creating sparks that illuminated Naruto's frowning face. The Saiyan's boy couldn't help but show off his power as he flung the drilling beam into the sky and steadily out of Earth's atmosphere. Naruto spoke directly to Piccolo as he said, "This is just a spar. There's no need for moves like that." Yet Piccolo couldn't speak, too stunned by what he could sense. Naruto's power was immense. He only felt what truly lay hidden for a moment, but that moment was long enough for him to realize Naruto was stronger than himself and Raditz combined. What kind of monster is he? Naruto, seeing Piccolo was currently thinking to himself, turned to his uncle, asking, "You feel better now? As long as the Namekian doesn't get in my way, I'll be fine." Raditz muttered as he followed Naruto, who was walking towards the quietly speaking master and pupil. "Well, I guess that's a good start," Naruto said to his uncle before turning his attention to his younger sibling with a grin. "Man, a good spar always makes me hungry." "Are you hungry, Gohan?" "Yeah," Gohan answered quickly as his belly started to rumble viciously. "Then let's go hunting, little brother." Naruto cheered as he started to run in a random direction with Gohan quickly following behind. "Wait for me, Naruto." Raditz watched the scene with crossed arms and a faint smile, wondering to himself, if things had been different, if planet Vegeta never blew up, could that have been Kakarot and himself in another life? Foolish thinking perhaps, but something to consider all the same. "Hey!" Piccolo called out to the older Saiyan, glaring as he made it clear, I don't know what you're planning, but if you try to betray us on the day the Saiyans arrive, I'll kill you myself." With that all said, Piccolo flew after the Saiyan brothers, not sparing Raditz a second glance. Raditz didn't give him a response as he too flew after his nephews. He understood why the Namekian warrior said what he said, and that made the older Saiyan even more determined to prove himself different to the Saiyan he once was. For Naruto's sake, 4 months came as quickly as they passed, and during that time, Naruto, Gohan, Raditz and Piccolo trained every day, all day, from sunrise to sunset, and all of them had grown much stronger for it. But it wasn't just their strength that had grown, but in a sense, their camaraderie. No longer did Piccolo have suspicions regarding their intentions when it came to Earth, but that didn't mean the Namekian had any positive feelings when it came to Raditz. He just trusted him enough not to stab him in the back. Naruto, on the other hand, had found a way to place himself on a list of people that Piccolo actually liked, and considering that the other person was his brother was actually saying something. There was just something about Naruto that drew people in, making them want to be the little Saiyan's friend. Perhaps it was his strength or even his kind-hearted nature that he inherited from his father, but regardless, Naruto was special. But that wasn't to say Naruto was the only one to win someone over. Gohan made great progress in the many months he spent with his uncle to get over his previous fear of the man, showing Naruto wasn't the only one to inherit Kakarot's kind heart. It was a work in progress, but steadily Raditz was forming a strong bond with his other nephew, becoming quite attached to them both. But alas, such peaceful times were never meant to last, as something unforeseen happened. The Saiyans were set to arrive a month earlier than expected, and it was only thanks to King Kai's timely warning that Roshi and Bulma were able to gather all the Dragon Balls and have them on standby to summon Goku. The Z warriors felt the approaching threat as 2 space pods, similar to the one Raditz used to arrive on Earth, breached the atmosphere, falling across the sky like 2 heavy comets waiting to impact the ground. They soared into the heavy populated and thriving community that is East City. The Saiyan pods showed how strong they truly were as they barreled through buildings like paper, killing thousands upon thousands by simply landing. Craters were formed from the impact of their ships, and the innocent humans of Earth could do nothing but stand and stare in fear as the pods slowly opened. The first one to greet the humans could only be described as a menacing bald giant. His black eyes scanned the crowd with an evil sneer. The second Saiyan to emerge was much shorter than his titanic companion, but what he lacked in stature, he made up for with presentation. His mere presence has many falling to their knees, turning white and sickly from his power alone. His tall spikes of black hair blew in the wind as he let out a wicked chuckle. "So this is Earth. Promising. Hey Vegeta, let's give these insects a little show." All it took was a flick of the giant's fingers, and then East City was no more. Gone in a blink of an eye. It was a shuddering thought to realize the terror of the Saiyans had only just begun.